All right, welcome to the podcast. In this episode, I want to cover why jazz guitar is not as complicated as it seems and where to get started, so let's get going. Welcome to Jazz Guitar Lessons, where we help guitarists learn jazz faster, express themselves more fluently, and have fun along the way. My name is Mark, and if you're looking to learn jazz, form better practice habits, and especially if you enjoy a French accent, make sure to subscribe. Jazz and jazz guitar in general, there's this fallacy or this aura of mysticism around the harmonies, like the ninth chords. And if you're a blues player or rocker, go, what's that 13 thing? And there's this thing about the scales and the superpositions and the whole sax player playing really, really fast flurries of notes. So we can just all calm down, take a chill pill, and today I'll expose how to get started with 3 simple ideas or materials, and I'll tell you right away. It's major, minor, dominant. Frame that, write it down, put it where you can see it, major, minor, and dominant. So with that information that you probably have already, if you're a guitar player, you're playing pop songs and rock songs and folk songs. Yeah, I try to say folk and rock at the same time. It said rock. We're not playing Baroque music. The whole point with major, minor, and dominant is that it's already present in everything we do. If you're already playing, if you already know music, you're familiar with these 3 things, these 3 elements of material. Jazz is the same thing. So I will do some theory in this podcast, but I'll suggest that, say you pick up your guitar and you learn these very simple staple voicings. You can get them for free on the Jazz Guitar Fellowship. It's a school group. There's over 3,500 people right now on it. So the whole point is this. With root 6th, so on your E string, and root 5 chords, we have 3 kinds of staples, major, minor, and dominance. If it's for a C major, you can expect, of course, to have the C note, the E, and the G for a C major chord. That would be a basic, boring cowboy chord triad. What we do in jazz, it will either have a 7th or a 9th or a 6th, sometimes all 3, or sometimes I would say both the 9th and the 6th, that's very common, or the 9th and the 7th. So regardless of these color tones, we can still boil it down and look at a chord and go, it's a C major. It's a C major. Yes, but Mark, it has this fancy C major 6/9 chord. Yeah, it's still a C major, right? So if you have a C major chord grip that you can take, say, around the 3rd fret, that has the C root on the 5th string, you're set, and then do the same with the C root on the 6th string, which is around the 8th fret. It's an 8th fret 6th string, right? And in that case, you leave out the bass, the A note. So you get a chord that either has 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd. So 5, 4, 3, and 2, as far as your string numbers. And you get another one that has 6, 4, 3, and 2. Those are 2 basic staples, right? So after you got those down, and the specifics don't really matter, but the point is that you got a major chord. What you got to do to get a minor chord, is to get a flat 3 or an E flat. So if it were a C minor triad, go C, E flat, and G, and there's your minor chord. You've heard countless songs that are written in minor. Sometimes songs are not in a minor key, but they contain a minor chord. For instance, if you're in the key of C major, you may encounter an A minor chord, or an E minor chord, or a D minor chord, right? So I'll stick to a C root because it's easier to explain. Same process with your staples. Grab the C that's 5th string, 3rd fret, and the C that's 8th fret, 6th string, and make sure you have an E flat in there, and make sure you have a B flat. So the 3rd and the 7th are lowered, all right? And if you guys are more familiar with the theory, we start back with a C major scale, go C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Some of you guys understand you can do C, E, G, and B. You get a C major 7 chord. Although in my staple voicings, there's no pure C major 7. There's reasons for that are more technical and more aesthetics and sonic. Like I prefer chords that don't have the 7th in major case. But that's a story for another time. With the minor one, I would do C, D, E, F, G, A, B again. But I would have both the E flat and the B flat. So that means you have the 3rd and the 7th. If you've been in jazz circles for any length of time, teachers, instructors like me like to harp on the fact that you need to target 3rd and 7th, or the money notes, or the guide tones, and it's right. If you build your staples correctly with your C minor chord, you'll wind up looking at the 3rd and 7th on your D and G string. When you do it with the root on the 6th string, they're somewhere here. You can't see it on camera because I'm in a podcast, but they're somewhere on the 8th fret as well, the B flat and the E flat. And if you go to the other one with the root on the 5th string, you wind up with the E flat and B flat reversed. So instead of D and G, they're on G and D, right? That's the beauty of the system with staples. You need 2 locations, right? So we have a major chord, we have a minor chord. So far, so good. What's the minor one? What's the dominant one? Major and minor, check, check. Dominant is halfway. So the dominant chord for a C will have the notes C, E, and G. So you already see it's major sounding, but it has a B flat. So it has a flat 7, right? So that would be what we call a C7 chord. Same deal with the major one. I told you C major 9, C6 9, whatever. With the minor, could be C minor 7, could be C minor 11, C minor 9. It could be any of these extensions. With the dominant chord, it's the same thing, although there's no quality to it that says major or minor. It just says number. For instance, C7 is a dominant chord. C9 is a dominant chord. It's neither major nor minor, it's somewhere between. C13 is another good example. If you've played the Hendrix song, of course, Purple Haze, E7 sharp 9. So it's a dominant because it's E7. Doesn't say major or minor. And then sharp 9 is what we call an alteration. It's altered. Right. So now we have 3 chord qualities. I can't really do it on the podcast, but I highly encourage you to do a quick Google search for staple voicings, Jazz Guitar Fellowship. You're going to find it for free. It's a 2-pager. You get major, minor, and dominants. Plus, you'll have a bonus category of chords that's called the others, like minor 7, flat 5, diminished 7, like the ones that don't quite fit. So here's why jazz guitar is not complicated as it seems. With these 3 voicings I talked about, you could perform probably 80, maybe more, 80%, 90% of the chord progressions in jazz standards. Of course, I'm not talking about fusion, jazz free, Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, crazy stuff. I'm not talking about that. But the traditional, Fly Me to the Moon, All the Things You Are, Stella by Starlight, you will get away with those basic chords. And same thing with the improvisation. So you comp and you can play the melody, you can accompany like, oh, wow. That's, if you will, what we're doing is the folklore of jazz. Like those are the very basic chords we can use. Of course, you can have more complex chords on top of that, but that's still the baseline. And melodically, when you're improvising, you can stick to the same principles, and you can go nuts and do like modal tunes and really play linearly on a single scale. I recommend you take what I call my step 4, my stage 4, which is the bullseye method, where you can target certain specific notes in the chord while improvising. It's much easier, it sounds way better. But at first, from the get-go, you will want to do a job of plug and play in terms of the chord, the correct scales that go along with the chord. For instance, the song goes C minor 7. What should I play? So that's where the magic of jazz is not that complicated kicks in. Ready? If it's a major chord, play the major scale. C major 7, C major something, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. It's just a scale. It's a scale. All the white notes on the keyboard. Easy, right? If it's a dominant chord, so it says C7 or C9 or C13, or if you're playing the blues in C, you can play that same scale with one caveat. You play a flat 7. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B flat. That's it. And now if you have a chord that's minor, you do both the B flat and the E flat. So C, D, E flat, F, G, A, B flat, C. That's minor. People call this the Dorian mode. You don't need to know modes and whatever to get into that thing. But the whole spirit of this is you start with a bland C major scale. You do one thing to it, which is flat 7. And then you do 2 things to it, which is flat 7, flat 3. And if you've been observing this, you're like, oh, it's the same order as a cycle of fourths. Yes, it is. So from C major, you go to F major with a B flat. This is what we did to the scale. And then you do another flat with the key of B flat. So B flat and E flat, and so on and so forth. There are more colors. There are other degrees of discernment where you can be way more fancy with this. But that's really the bigger picture. So people will say, well, jazz is complicated because it's got all these things. I say, well, it's founded on very few basic things, because if it was too many colors, too many things, we wouldn't be able to play or discern or hear it. What we have when we heard more complex writing like Pat Metheny tunes, is that we still have specifications or modifications of this basic harmony. Is this a major sound? Is this a minor sound? Or is this a dominant sound? Is this, right? Because beyond that, you can say, well, that was a dominant chord and it had a flat 5, but it's still a dominant sound. With the flat 5, it gives a specific flavor. But here's the example. Candy. This bowl of candy. I forgot what the name is. My son, my 4-year-old son, is very fond of them. And there are blue ones, red ones, and green ones. And probably like blue raspberry and whatever. I didn't even taste the candies yet. I don't do candies. But the point is like, it's still candy, right? Still sugar, still sweet. So if I look at a song, I'm like, this is candy. It's a minor 11th chord. Oh, it's got a specific flavor. So it's one of those candies that's blue flavor, whatever that flavor is. So it's harmony in jazz is built upon these things. Like I would think about it like salt and sugar and maybe bitterness, right? Is it salty? Is it sugary? Is it sweet? Or is it bitter? And then, but how bitter? Is it a lot bitter? It's just a little bit. Is it sweet mixed in with some salt, right? That's the thing. But at the foundation of it, there's really only a few core elements. And that is why jazz guitar is not as complicated as it seems. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Please like and subscribe. Of course, leave me a comment if you're watching this on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform like Spotify. And I will see you soon on the website, jazzguitarlessons.net. Improve your jazz guitar playing with a real teacher. Talk to you soon. Take care.